You use wood every day, in your house, your furniture, your paper. But almost no one thinks about how it is extracted. Logging is one of the deadliest jobs in America, with fatality rates over 20 times higher than average. And that risk is not random. It is built into the system. Logging unfolds as a sequence of tightly connected stages, each with its own crew, machines, and risks. It begins before a single tree falls. Forestry teams, using GPS and digital mapping, walk the woods to mark trees that fit both market demand and ecological guidelines. Their choices shape the workload and hazards for everyone down the line. Directional felling comes next. Chainsaw crews and feller buncher operators bring down marked trees, choosing between hand tools and heavy machinery depending on terrain and timber. Every method has its own specialists, fallers, spotters, and machine operators, each exposed to unique dangers, from falling limbs to equipment failure. Once trees are felled, limbing and bucking crews strip branches and cut logs to length. In some forests, mechanized harvesters do this in a single pass. Elsewhere, hand crews work with saws, especially where ground is steep or access is tight. Every cut must be precise to avoid jams or shifting logs. Extraction follows. Skidders drag logs to roadside landings, while forwarders carry them to minimize soil damage. In rugged terrain, cable yarders haul logs up slopes on suspended lines. Each technique relies on operators, riggers, and spotters, all moving timber across unpredictable ground. At the landing, loaders and deckers sort logs by size and grade, building stacks for trucks. Ground crews and machine operators work in close quarters, managing swinging booms and rolling timber. Long-haul drivers then transport logs to mills, securing loads and navigating narrow, twisting roads. Supporting all stages are mechanics, safety coordinators, and supervisors, keeping machines running and teams aligned. Every link in this chain is essential, and every shortcut or delay sends ripples through the entire system. Gravity sets the rules in logging. When a tree falls, its center of mass, about 0.55 times its length from the base, swings around the hinge cut. This path is not negotiable. A notch a few centimeters off, or a hinge just a bit too thin, can send a 30-meter pine crashing in a direction no one intended. Field studies in the Pacific Northwest confirm most conifers follow this principle, but wind, lean, and hidden rot can shift the outcome in an instant. Escape radius is set at 1.5 times the tree's height. This rule comes from Forest Service analysis of over 2,500 felling incidents. Nearly every injury from being struck occurred inside this buffer. The formula is not just tradition. It is the line between a close call and disaster. But even this margin can vanish if the hinge fails or the ground tilts beneath your feet. A tree's fall line can shift meters in seconds, leaving almost no time to react. Terrain amplifies every risk. On slopes above 35%, USDA studies show the factor of safety for heavy equipment drops below 1. Machines like skidders and forwarders reach the edge of rollover, especially on wet or loose soil. Each extra percent of slope increases instability, turning extraction into a calculation where the cost of error is measured in tons. Tools and machines are built to manage mass and momentum, but gravity and terrain always set the limits. The CM hinge principle, the escape radius, and the slope safety factor form the invisible boundaries every logger works within. Danger is not removed, only shifted. Modern logging crews now operate in cabs, shielded by steel and glass, surrounded by hydraulic arms and digital controls. On paper, mechanization slashes the time a worker spends next to a falling tree or swinging log. But the numbers tell a more complicated story. According to the CDC data, about 35% of logging deaths still involve hand fallers, but mechanized operators, now account for roughly 25% of fatalities, and transport roles make up another 30%. Risk hasn't disappeared, it has split and moved. Inside a harvester or forwarder, the threats shift from chainsaw kickback to machine-centered failure. Blind zones around a feller buncher can reach 2 meters, and even with cameras and mirrors, operators report near misses from ground crew or rolling logs. A single hydraulic hose rupture can drop a boom unexpectedly, pinning or crushing anyone nearby. In 2022, a forwarder operator was killed when a hydraulic failure triggered an uncontrolled swing. The event was traced to missed maintenance and pressure to keep machines running. The CDC longitudinal studies confirm that equipment entanglement and hydraulic failures now rival classic, struck-by incidents for mechanized crews. Operators describe the experience as working inside a system where everything is heavy, moving, and unpredictable. Visibility is limited, and the pace is relentless. As one logger put it, efficiency doesn't remove danger, it redistributes it. Every minute saved has a physical cost, and someone absorbs it. The fatality profile proves the point. Mechanization reduces some risks, but introduces new ones, especially when economic pressure rewards speed over caution. Machines buffer workers from some hazards, but they concentrate others, hydraulics, blind spots, and rollover potential into the hands of a single operator. Technology is a partial solution, not a cure. The system remains dangerous because the push for productivity, the realities of terrain, and the limits of engineering all collide in the woods. A logging operation lives and dies by its margins. Contractors, who make up about 60% of the workforce, often operate on profit margins as thin as 5%. That means every hour of downtime, whether it is for equipment checks, safety meetings, or waiting out bad weather, translates directly into lost income. A single hour halted can cost a small crew between $500 and $1,200 in missed production. The economic pressure is relentless, and it shapes decisions at every level. Small contractors, especially those with 10 or fewer employees, face a fatality rate 2.5 times higher than larger firms. According to the CDC and the FACE program data, these smaller crews average 28 deaths per 100,000 workers, compared to 12 per 100,000 for crews owned by major timber companies. The difference comes down to resources: older equipment, thinner insurance, and fewer dedicated safety staff. A small outfit might run a single feller buncher and a used skidder, both pushed hard to meet quotas. Routine maintenance is sometimes skipped to keep machines running. Safety protocols, like mandatory spotters or full lockout tagout checks, can get squeezed, especially when a contract deadline looms. One contractor put it plainly: efficiency does not remove danger, it redistributes it. The pressure to keep moving encourages shortcuts, whether that means stacking logs higher than recommended, skipping a safety briefing, or working through fatigue. Every minute saved has a physical cost, and someone absorbs it. The FACE reports are blunt. The majority of fatal incidents involve a known hazard that was tolerated because stopping work seemed unaffordable. In this system, risk is not just a byproduct, it is a line item in the business plan. The drive for productivity, tight margins, and the realities of rugged terrain all combine to make certain hazards routine, even expected. For many small contractors, the calculation is simple. If you do not take risks, you might not stay in business at all. Risk in logging is not a matter of isolated incidents. It is woven into daily routines. Each shift starts before sunrise, with crew assignments mapped to specific machines: a John Deere 730 feller buncher, a Tigercat 795 skidder, and a Caterpillar 938 loader. Every operator faces a checklist of hazards unique to their post. Chainsaw fallers must keep clear of the tree's escape radius, while machine operators monitor blind spots that can swallow a person or a rolling log in seconds. OSHA loader specifications define a 90-degree blind sector behind the bucket and a 10-meter watch zone where a spotter is required. On the landing, loaders swing heavy logs from deck to truck. One missed signal can put a ground worker in the path of a swinging boom. Skidder drivers watch for rollover risk on slopes, adjusting routes when soil turns slick. Meanwhile, truck drivers time their arrivals to avoid congestion at the landing, knowing that rushed loading or skipped checks can lead to load shifts on winding roads. Each role demands constant attention and split-second judgment. Routine choices, where to stand and when to move, can be the difference between a close call and a serious injury. A handfeller works a 75-foot Douglas fir, cutting a face notch, then a back cut. The hinge left is less than 2 inches, far below the safe margin. 5 seconds after the saw bites through, the hinge snaps. The tree swings downhill, striking him before he escapes. Face investigators later note steep ground and a missing release cut as triggers. On a mechanized site, a forwarder operator loads logs when a hydraulic hose bursts. The boom drops, pinning him in the cab. Maintenance logs reveal the hose was overdue, but production demands kept it running. The crew shifts to manual extraction, raising risk for others. A log truck, overloaded and missing 2 binders, loses its load on a bend. The trailer rolls, crushing the cab. Each missed step multiplies risk, making danger routine. Today, every log shipped reflects a system where productivity, terrain, and cost converge, structurally embedding risk. Efficiency does not remove danger. It redistributes it. Every minute saved has a physical cost, and someone absorbs it. That is the reality when you are working inside a system where everything is heavy, moving, and unpredictable.